of the statewide Unitarian Universalist Immigration Justice Team and a member of our church, and helped coordinate a large public witness and civil disobedience that she and I both participated in last month in Washington, D.C. in front of the White House. And thank you for your good work, Yvonne. I want to start with a few questions. You don't have to raise your hand. You can just reflect on your own answers. How many of you would like to spend more time by yourself? How many of you would like to have more quality one-on-one time with people in your life, whatever form that may be? And how many of you would like to have more quality group time with folks getting together for just fun or for meaningful conversations? I'm sure the answers vary amongst all of us in different degrees on every question. Let me tell you about Johnny Popo, the man who taught me about 1, 2, and 3 time. Johnny lives in a house that's carved in the green rural hills of Maryland. He calls his place the Cave. Johnny lives with a dog and a few goats amongst crepe myrtles with red and pink blooms. Bob? On his land there are black-eyed Susans announcing glory with yellow. Johnny fishes and goes crabbing in the Chesapeake, where he knows so many nooks and crannies of the water for the placement and working of the crab pots. At some point in his life, John realized that he needed more quality interaction with human beings, so he started coming back to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Annapolis, where he grew up. When I was intern minister in Annapolis, Johnny said, "Kent, you can support lots of people in your ministry if you help them to understand 1, 2, and 3 time. Everybody has different wants and needs for 1 time, time alone, 2 time, one-on-one with others, and 3 time with groups of any size." I have become a believer and try and talk about this frequently. A quick example: commonly, introverts need and want higher amounts of alone time to charge their batteries and to be happy, and extroverts need and want higher amounts of time with other folks. But quite often it's not that simple. We change. The circumstances of our lives change. So it's important to consider how your current patterns of living are meeting your wants and needs. When people get married or have children, those are good times for the partners to reflect together on these questions. It's true that communications are important for healthy marriages, but it is not always easy to know what it is valuable to communicate about. And I suggest 1, 2, and 3 time as a regular conversation. Talking proactively can help depersonalize things. So if a wife needs more time alone, her spouse does not have to think, "You really just want to get away from me, don't you?" The need for alone time stands independent of who else is involved quite often. When people lose a spouse to divorce or death, it's important to reflect on these questions. Many times in the new situation, people benefit from increased quality time with others, and alone time for reflection and processing can also be highly valuable. When someone has a group of good friends, and many of those friends either move away or get involved in serious new relationships, it's a good time to reflect on what the person who didn't have a change needs or wants. The conversation is not always easy. because, among other things, we deal with entrenched cultural norms, many of which discourage people from being alone. This goes back at least to the book of Genesis, where in the beginning the Spirit hovers over the face of the waters. God creates light and the heavens and the stars. God puts forth grass and seeds for fruit-bearing trees. God makes animals that swim and creep and fly and swarm. God tells them, go forth and multiply. And after each creation, God says, this is good. This is good. Then God makes man and says, it is not good that man should be alone. That's the first time God says it's not good about anything. Next, God makes Eve, and Adam is no longer alone. And in modern times, we get this kind of philosophy all the time. Books on being successful, books on having people like you, Harvard and Stanford business schools, teacher-parent conferences, all tend to endorse extrovert norms, the value of socializing proactively in the group. Most of us grew up with family or friends who believed that chances for happiness increase when a person finds a spouse. In his book, Going Solo, The Extraordinary Rise and Surprising Appeal of Living Alone, Eric Kleinenberg states that human societies at all times and places have organized themselves around the importance of living with others, not alone. I have preached on this book in the past, and I find it tremendously helpful, highlighting important trends in the world and also lessons for modern healthy living. Kleinenberg shows how all the focus on being with others is changing. In the United States and many affluent countries around the world, increasing numbers of people are living alone. In the United States, in 1950, 9% of all households were composed of people living alone. Today, 28% of all households are composed of people living alone. The percentage has quadrupled. In Manhattan, over 50% of households are people living by themselves. Now, what's fascinating is this is a worldwide phenomenon. Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark have the highest percentage of people living alone. Over 60% of households in Stockholm are solo livers. But listen, China, India, and Brazil have the fastest growth rates of one-person households. So basically it seems wherever there is economic growth or financial capacity, solo living is increasing, where people have choice. And Kleinenberg, I think, helps us figure out what kinds of living situations, what contexts are these happening in. 4 major contributing trends. First, there are fewer married folks. We marry later, and when we divorce, we have less commitment to finding marriage again. Second, women's success in the work world has grown their economic independence and life choices. Third, the communications revolution, actually starting with the telephone, and then of course with the internet and smartphones, etc., all have increased people's ability to stay connected without having to live together. And fourth, with longer lifespans. More people outlive their spouses or live longer single. I am proud that for a long time, Unitarians have played important roles in balancing out the need for being with others along with the value of solitude. Going back to the early 1800s, Margaret Fuller, a giant, Bronson Alcott, Ralph Waldo Emerson promoted self-reliance. It was radical in the pulpits and in the books in those days. Self-reliance. Not on others, not on God so much. Henry David Thoreau publicly endorsed the benefits of living alone. He said, there can be no melancholy to a person who lives alone in the midst of nature. He said, I have never felt lonesome or the least oppressed by solitude. And he talked about the sweet society of nature, which makes the fancied advantages of human neighborhood insignificant. So Henry talked more radically than he lived. You have to keep in mind that all these leading self-reliance thinkers enjoyed company. Henry, he received visitors at Walden. He took 30-minute walks into town, dined in Emerson's house. But the point is, these questions always come down to finding balance points between self and community. How are you living out 1, 2, and 3 time in the context of your life today? Walt Whitman was balancing things out from the more radical and theoretical transcendentalist movement in some ways into more of a realism of independence and interdependence. We heard from Song of the Open Road, where he wrote, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me. But then he goes on to say, together the inducements shall be greater. We will sail pathless and wild seas. I and me, and then also we and together. We are now at a time in history when more people than ever have some choices about how they balance out I and me, and we and together. I know 2 single ministers and 1 minister with her husband, all in different parts of the country, who are moving into communal living situations, somewhat analogous to group houses, combining private and communal spaces. Now, I would guess that especially the 2 single people, they're single females, I would guess in their 50s, they could have been stopped from their intention by worrying about what people would think about them. Maybe they would worry people think it's strange to move into communal living at their age. But I know these folks, I'm impressed with their self-knowledge and their courageous initiative to make something good happen in their lives and in the lives of others. Of course, these questions go well beyond decisions about living arrangements. Some folks work alone, some work in large groups. The impact varies. We all know you can feel painful loneliness amongst others and feel fully alive and connected while alone. Regardless of circumstances, if you need more time with others, you can get involved, including here at USG. Men, you can sign up for the men's retreat. You can come to Sunday morning sitting meditation, or we have a walking and running meditation. Small group ministries, a great slate of adult spiritual development classes. Sign your kids up for spiritual development or get in one of our justice teams. If you spend lots of time with others, you can claim alone time as emotionally and spiritually valuable. Alone time is emotionally and spiritually valuable. You can go to a museum or a park or a garden. You can just take a walk by yourself and breathe. For me personally, as an extrovert, living for 8 years by myself was precious time in self-discovery and growth. And now I know that my story is just like millions of others around the world. Being alone, now I take at least some hours on Monday, allows me to mature and continue walking on my own path of happiness. No matter what your circumstances, you can engage in a spiritual practice of 1, 2, or 3 time. Practice. Not perfect, practice. So pick 1 or 2 that best fit your needs and the parameters of your life. We all have limitations. Number 1, draw a circle around your aloneness. Make boundaries and be by yourself, doing what you wish. Or number 2, make a time for tea or just hanging out with another person. Make a time and do it with someone else. And 3, make a commitment to participate in something with a bigger group. Fellowship hour or meditation group, or there's plenty of opportunities. We're blessed in the greater Philly region with many opportunities to connect with people around shared interests. When we intentionally practice 1, 2, and 3 time, we become better aware of how situations ebb and flow for others. We become more mindful of how folks are affected by different life situations. Our empathy increases. We may know children in the summer who are in a summer camps or activities with large family or neighborhood groups, and at the end of the day, that child may really need some time by his or herself. And we have children in our families, in our community, who may not have that kind of interaction, camp or neighborhood or family, and that child may be longing for more time with friends. We can all think about those kids and see how we can help them get what they need. Some folks struggle to get out into social environments for various reasons, including health challenges that may be tough for them. Maybe we can reach out and help someone get some more 2 or 3 time. Bring a birthday party to somebody. Many couples have different desires for how they socialize with others. One couple, highlighted in Susan McCain's excellent book, Quiet, had weekly dinner parties for years where the expectations were 5 to 12 people would come together for one large conversation that would go on for hours. The extroverted husband loved it. He gabbed, many times was the center of attention. This did not work for the introverted wife. Eventually, they compromised, and now they have buffet-style dinners. Simple but important adjustment. People now who want can still sit at the table with the group, and others who feel more comfortable can drift to the sides or the living areas or have 2 or 3 person conversations. With mindfulness about 1, 2, and 3 time, we realize there is not just one right way. This church and how we interact with people in society, we should help people realize that extrovert ideals are not the only way for success. It's remarkable how many of the educational and pedagogical efforts out there are get the kids and the students interacting with others, somewhat even aggressively, moving them towards that. We know many people like John, real person, highly successful salesman. He says the key to leading his team most months in sales involves asking his clients great questions and listening. John says, I have 1 mouth and 2 ears, and I try to use them proportionately. What if, as a congregation, we more explicitly acknowledge the diverse ways people can live, work, and be in community? How can we grow? I think we might be able to grow more meaningful and fun buddy times, one-on-one efforts for people to get together, to know each other, and have fun together, one-on-one. Going forward, our congregation can keep listening to feedback from one another and develop programs for 1, 2, and 3 time accordingly. All 3 ways of being can help us to find happiness, purpose, and fulfillment. All 3 ways of being can help us to be grateful and to give back and help make the world a better place. You can walk the open road. We can sail pathless, wild seas together. Blessings be. Amen.